I think that's part of the journey. That's part of the wild, is being brave enough to know that I'm not there yet, but I'm still going to show up and step out anyways and trust that one day, like, it'll all work out.
Welcome to Thriving in the Wild. I'm Taylor Stern. I'm sharing what happens when you step into your vulnerability, face the hard things, celebrate your journey, and giving you your weekly reminder that no one has it all figured out. It's time to thrive. Let's go. Joining us is our friend who has truly become a rare gift to my sister Alex and I, Molly Lee. Molly is the host of the Painfully Self-Aware podcast and a content creator. And like so many in 2020, Molly's life has taken a full 180. Back in March, while sheltering in place, she released a hilarious video of her at-home waxing that was an overnight viral sensation. The video got picked up by thousands of news outlets, including Good Morning America, and skyrocketed her social success. Laughter has been her guiding force, but she shares how embracing her authenticity has boosted her happiness. It was such a pleasure to talk to Molly, and I think you'll get a few laughs out of this one. Her energy is contagious. If you want to watch Molly's videos or connect with her on social, I've linked everything below in the show notes. And if you'd hit subscribe or follow wherever you're listening, that'd be much appreciated. And now, please enjoy a conversation with Molly Lee. I found Molly from a viral video that she had right around the time that our Tiger King TikTok video had kind of gone up there. So, I'm thinking I'm with the internet famous friends, like me and David Dobrik all the time.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. And so Alex sends me your video. And of course, I start perusing others, and she does as well. And there's one, man, I'm going to have to link it in this episode. It's the Wienermobile video. And
Yes.
I swear, it was also the Ford Truck Month video that got me too.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there were actually plenty, but the Wienermobile video, it was kind of a sarcastic video. Explain.
Yeah, there was just something about it. So I had, it was at the time right at the beginning of shelter in place and of quarantine, when all of these things were announcing that they were going to be closing or events were not going to be happening anymore. And the Wienermobile announced that it would not be doing tours. It was having to shut down because of COVID. And I mean, we were all waiting, like their silence was deafening. We were all waiting to see what the Wienermobile was going to be doing for the 2020 summer season.
Mm-hmm.
And so I made a basically a sad, movie reel about the Wienermobile's best moments and how much we were going to miss this year. And that's one of your favorite videos, which I think is so funny because so many people thought that was so ridiculous and stupid. And I was just like, I think this is my best work. Like, I'm hearing Oscar buzz. I just think this is the one.
I'm trying not to laugh as hard because I know that's not good audio, but it is so funny. It is hilarious. And then I'm trying to be cool and like happy for my friend Molly, but she did get to go into the Wienermobile, and there's tension. There's tension between us, and we're trying to work through it, but it's a dream of mine, and
yeah,
I know
we're pretending to be friendly. We're actually horribly mad at each other right now because that's a joke.
Could you do another content video with them and then just like pull up to my apartment complex and I'll hop in?
Yeah. Well, someone did tell me that they were going to be in Dallas soon. Another driver was like, "Hey, we'll be there at the end of this month. You want to come back?" And I was like, "Is this who I am now?" Just like the person who has all the connections with the Wienermobile. I don't know, but Oscar Myers never reached out to me. Just the Wienermobile driver.
Was that the Oscar buzz that you were feeling?
Yes, the Oscar buzz was not, unfortunately, the Oscars. I should have clarified. It was Oscar Mayer.
Oscar Mayer buzz. Okay, yeah. Sorry for this derail of all the topics, but we're getting to the point. And the point is that I saw this video and I was like, whoa, this person's amazing. Obviously, Instagram creeping. Oh my gosh, she's in Frisco, Texas. What? And then I was like, okay, well, we need to be best friends. And I commented, we need to be best friends on her posts, like all over the place. Meanwhile, like, I think her account when I first saw it was like 4,000, maybe 10. And then it was like 30. And I was like, oh, okay. So like now she hasn't seen it. I waited a few days, commented again. Like,
Yeah,
"Please be my friend. Let's hang out.
yeah.
I wanna be your friend." And you responded, and it's been just pure bliss since.
The rest is history, honestly, as they say. I
Had that
wasn't
happened to you before?
No, I wasn't creeped out by it, actually. I had had so many people message me, like, I think anytime, especially in Texas, there's so much Texas pride that anytime you see another creator or someone online or just a friend that's, like, from Texas, it's just like, "Oh my gosh," we instantly feel like friends. So I had so many people commenting like, "Oh, I live in Dallas," or "I live in Fort Worth, let's hang out sometime." But there was something about you and your sister, I don't even know what it was. I went and creeped on you guys too, and you had both commented, and I was like, I just feel like they're good people. I can't explain it. Like, I just wanna be friends with them. So I replied, and we exchanged numbers. It honestly felt like I was being very vulnerable, like an online date. I was like, "Oh, we're exchanging phone numbers,
Mm.
and now we're here, and we're besties, and it's great."
It is. I mean, I know that you and Lexi are our other sister. It's like a
Yeah,
twin sister, and we have a trip coming up. Just look for it on YouTube
yeah.
or Netflix will probably pick it
Yeah,
up.
we're gonna vlog it.
Yeah, it's gonna be vlogged. And the funny thing for me, and I mean this in the most complimentary way, is that, so Molly came over and we hung out and we drank a lot of water,
Mhm.
legitimately water. And I was talking to her and I was like, wait, how old are you? And she's like, I'm 23. And suddenly I felt like an ancient mummy. I felt like, oh, wow, I am so old because I am
Mhm.
28 and you just have this old soul, this wisdom about you that at 23, I did not have. I had just moved to Dallas. I was so
Mhm.
consumed with like going out on McKinney, and that is the street here in Dallas that is where all the bars are at.
Yeah.
And how did you get there? Like, tell me your secrets of wisdom.
I've told some of my friends this before that I've always found myself, no matter what stage of life I'm in, being the youngest one in every room. And I think I've always been mature for my age. I know that really sounds stupid to say, but I mean, my mom has told me that since I was young, that I've just always seemed to understand not only deep principles, but just kind of more complex things in my life. And I've always like, all of my best friends are, like, 30 and married and have a million kids, and I'm just, like, chilling, halfway unemployed, like, living my life out on the internet. But I just think it's really interesting that you bring that up because it is something that's so funny to me that it's talked about a lot with my age, like, only being 23, and you say it nicely as being mature, but I really think I'm like an 80-year-old that's trapped in a 23-year-old body sometimes because I really am such a grandma, but at the same time, just, really enjoy life, so it's fun,
Yeah.
but yeah, my older siblings too, I think they've impacted that a lot by just hanging out with them and being around their friends all the time and wanting to be like them. When you have older siblings, you just really look up to them, so
You hear that, Alex? You hear that? You're
you look
lucky
up
for
to
me. Yeah, Lexi and I had to mold you too.
her.
So, but
She's raised me.
the other funny part that you kind of say in a different way, but half unemployed, I don't think you are
Yeah,
at all. I think you have a full-time job as a content creator,
mhm.
and I've always wanted you to be a content creator because
Yes.
when I first saw your stuff, I was like, oh, yeah, this makes sense. Like, she's about to blow up on TikTok. Everything is normal here. I feel comfortable with labeling her as a content creator.
Mhm.
You come over and you tell me, and at the time, I think you were still working at your job when you
Yeah.
first came over? Yeah, and then you quit, and you
Mm,
went on a road trip.
yes. Full
How
quarter life crisis.
full quarter, barely quarter,
Yeah.
how did you get to that point?
So I was in a job that really was not fulfilling. It was definitely just kind of a pay the bills, get through it kind of job, which I think there are definitely seasons where you're in places like that. But I had noticed that it had drained all of the life out of me, and I knew that I probably needed to make a change. And some backstory just at the beginning of shelter in place and quarantine is when like my pages kind of blew up. And before it was just me and my grimy little friends, like just literally like, 1,700 followers on Instagram of people that I knew. And I wake up overnight after this video to almost 30,000 followers. and that was on Instagram. So I basically just kind of fell into it without asking for it necessarily. And so I think when that happened, I'm a person that really needs a lot of security in making a decision, or my mind's just constantly racing about every possible option. So I had already been debating like quitting my job and doing something different. And I'm such a planner that I was like, okay, I need to get my resume together. I need to apply to all of these jobs. And I think when that moment happened that I woke up and just my world had changed in a lot of ways, it was that confidence that I needed to be like, I don't want to waste any more time not chasing after my dreams, trying to fulfill this false idea of success of like climbing the corporate ladder 9 to 5. I was working at a national headquarters for a nonprofit, and it was just like, what is, what is this? What am I trying to prove, and who am I trying to prove it to? And I didn't have any answers. There was no reason why I was still in that place. And so I kind of had a freak out moment. It also just happened to be when I graduated with my master's degree that it was like I've never taken a break. I've been constantly working since I was 16, and it really was a quarter life crisis of like I just quit my job on a whim. I went on this road trip and really decided to start pursuing my dreams. So that's when I started doing content full time. That's when I started a podcast. Now I have a couple different freelance jobs and part-time jobs. So I joke that I'm half unemployed. I think I've actually been working more than I ever have in my entire life, but I think I'm still honestly undoing a little bit of that corporate 9 to 5 mentality of like, okay, well, I don't have like health insurance right now. So like, where does all of that play into being employed? But the reality is, yes, I have been working more than I ever have in my entire life. It just is all stuff that I love. And I think I don't know how to feel like the fact that I don't feel guilty about my work is weird to me. I feel like there should be some guilt or some separation between work and my life, and it's all just crossing over right now.
Yeah.
So it's good. I'm just still unlearning a lot, I think.
Yeah, and I feel you on that
Mhm. Yeah.
1000%. I feel you. And there's so much to take from that bit about, from the fact of, okay, I'm going to move on from this and knowing what
Mhm.
was meaningful for you and what wasn't. And then, yes, I can relate in the sense where it was like, okay, the dream is that one day I will be a CMO or something like that, where
Yeah.
it's like you can justify the years you've spent at this job in
Mhm.
saying, look at what it gave me, this money and this title. And I think for so long I was desperately obsessed with the title for some reason.
Yeah.
Like, okay, no, 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 no longer an
Yeah.
intern, no longer entry level, like years of equity here. And I don't, how did you come to realize what was meaningful and not? And in your case, particularly, you were at a nonprofit, which a lot of people would consider meaningful work.
Yeah.
And I don't mean to put that them
No,
down.
no. Yeah, I totally get it. I think I had come from a very hands-on vocational ministry background, actually. And so when I stepped into this nonprofit, it was a ministry. And I think I really thought that I would be doing way more than I was doing. And when I realized that I was in a job, like, yes, there are roles and there's purpose in every role, there's purpose in everything to achieve this common vision, to do the work that you're doing. Everyone's role is important, but I was like basically just a glorified secretary, just an admin position when that was not my title. And like you said about title, I think it's funny how obsessed we are with titles because I think it gives us purpose where it's easy. Like we don't have to prove ourselves when we give someone the title because the title does the talking for us. It gets you in the door. And my title seemed so elegant and so cool. And I would tell everyone, yes, I'm this ministry associate, blah, blah, blah. But really I was like, sending emails, planning events, and like answering the phone. And, we don't tell anyone about the grit work that we're doing. We tell everyone the title.
Yeah.
And I think when I had that stripped away, that mindset, it really was just kind of like a sober moment for me, if I could describe it as that, of like just the clearest moment of thinking I've ever had, where it's like, I know that I am staying in this job out of fear of the unknown, fear of like an unstable income, fear of all of this stuff. And I'm not willing to do that. Like you said, I'm only 23, but gosh, I don't want to get to the point where I'm in my 30s or 40s and it's like, gosh, there's so many regrets of not living my life or not chasing after my dreams when I know what I want. And I just called my mom and my dad and I said, "Hey, I'm gonna quit my job, I think." And they were so supportive. They are still so supportive and great. And I think like the results that I'm seeing now, the numbers, it's not about numbers, but it's just all confirmation that really helps to affirm the decision that I made, and I've just been living the time of my life, so it's been so
Oh,
fun.
I'm so unbelievably proud of you, and you know that because I comment
Thank
that on
you.
basically every post as well.
Yeah.
But why I'm proud particularly, and I know I brought up your age, and I didn't say that because I think that you're there. But what I think is so beautiful about you is to experience that at your age. Like, and I know I'm only 5 years older than you,
Mhm.
but I did see this in you immediately that it was like, "Oh, she gets it, and how does she get it?" And I wanted to learn from you and see life through your point of view, and I think it's because you have this really sweet brevity to a lot of
Mhm.
things that you say, and you put out different things that you're addressing the hard things and difficult situations you've been through, but in a way where it's so approachable with comedy.
Mhm.
And I just thought, "Oh, this girl has to be a content creator because the world needs more of you."
Yeah,
And I was kind of talking with Alex about this in an episode was like, I really am grateful for this generation because I think they're normalizing mental health. They're normalizing like, here are my
mm,
feelings, and they put it
yeah,
out there in
totally.
TikToks and they put it out there, and it looks kind of strange right now, but they're going to grow up, and when I'm 50, they're going to be 60 in maturity
Yeah,
because
right.
they're gonna realize what really matters. And you're gonna laugh at me, but have you ever seen that Pinterest quote, or like it's got to be out there, where it says like
Oh, I'm sure I have.
you're the CEO of your life. You can demote and promote like anyone you want. Have you ever seen that?
Yes, you're the boss babe of your life
The
type of
boss
stuff, yeah.
babe, yes. And honestly, you are. Like, I don't know who tricked us into thinking you can't decide what you want to
Yeah,
do. I think it's partially a little bit of the education system. I'm not throwing any
yeah,
daggers because they
right.
usually listen to this podcast. Yeah.
Yeah, all of the teachers, the CEOs, the
Well, my mom was a
police
teacher, and
departments, they're
yeah,
listening.
yeah, my
Just
mom was a teacher, and
yeah,
there are certain things that of course you have to learn. Like, yeah, you have to
totally.
learn the basics, but when you start to really recognize who you are, um, I remember growing up, I didn't think I was creative at all, at all. And partially because I thought there was only like a one allotted creative in the home. And so I was like, oh,
Right.
that's Alex. So not me. And so I was kind of like, all right, I got to do this like marketing thing, which I didn't think was creative. I thought it was like, oh, like a book. And then everyone would be like, you're so creative. And I'd be like, you're lying to
What?
me. Thank
Yeah.
you. Like, so that's a whole tangent. But my point of saying it is that I'm so grateful to learn from you. One thing I want to learn from you today is how do you use comedy to cope with the hard things in life?
Yeah, I think honestly, comedy breaks down so many barriers. It's something that allows people to feel really relaxed. It allows people to feel seen. And so I think I realized that at a really young age. I've always kind of been the class clown type ever since I was young. I would put on performances for my family at like 4 years old where I would just like command the attention of a room and do this really horrible performance where I just tried to make people laugh. And I think using as I got older and started realizing like, "Oh, I've been through trauma? What?" Like, that is so shocking. And just as you get
Hi
older
there,
and you
trauma.
experience yeah, "Hey, girl," as you experience different things in life and different pains, it was just natural that comedy was the thing I used to cope, and that just started internally of, like, laughing at how ridiculous a situation was or, like, kind of looking at it from an aerial point of view of, like, "I can't believe that I went through that situation, like, that was crazy, how did I make it out?" And I would just use humor and try to make light of the situation in order to cope with it. Definitely total coping mechanism. And especially when I started stepping into different roles and different jobs, I realized like, okay, comedy can be used as a tool, like I said, to break down barriers. It can also become so relatable of helping other people cope with stuff. And especially with the stuff that I do, I never want to like make fun of other people. I don't think that there's any value in that. I like making fun of overarching themes or ideas or just using myself. So a lot of people actually think that I'm like super unconfident, like self-deprecating type. And it's like I'm actually confident and it's such a like, people think when you're a comedian, you just are, like, an idiot of the world that just makes shitty jokes all the time, blah, blah, blah. But I, like you said about being a creative, I didn't think I was a creative when I was younger either, because in my mind, creative was like an artist or a singer. And I was like, I can't sing at all, and I cannot paint or draw. It's horrible. And so I just convinced myself for a long time that I wasn't creative. And as I got older and realized the art of comedy, that it's not just making people laugh, it's knowing what joke to make, when to make it. It was just like a big jigsaw puzzle that my brain was just like enveloped with. And I think that started translating into other people and into the way that I was, presenting videos, or just like the videos way before they ever made it to social media would be full on productions that I would just send to my friends. Like, I'm talking hair, makeup, outfit changes, like accents, the whole thing. And it really was all with just the purpose of making them laugh and knowing the time to sit with them in their pain when they needed it, and not just trying to, like, brush aside what they were feeling, but also like turning a leaf and using comedy to help both of us get through that situation together. And when I realized that, when that clicked in my brain, it just opened up a whole new world for me. It really did.
When did it click in your brain?
Honestly, I think I was like a senior in high school. It was pretty early on that I realized, okay, this isn't just like, because all my friends growing up, I
Mhm.
know that they meant it kindly, but they would just be like, oh, that's our like idiot friend, or she's crazy, or like she's just the wild one type of thing. Not that anything I did was wild or crazy, but I just had a personality that was very unique, that wasn't the traditional, like, girly girl, go with the flow of what everyone else was doing in my friend group. And I would always try to, like, change myself to be who other people wanted me to be, or to fit in more. And I actually had a mentor tell me when I was a senior in high school, like, I was created the way I was created, with the personality that I have, for a reason. And I think as I started walking through that season of learning those things about myself, of, okay, well, if I was created this way and I'm not supposed to run from it, then why? Like, I just started asking those questions. And there were just a lot of pieces that fell into place through like self discovery and actually being brave enough to seek those things out.
Wow, that's very powerful. What a great mentor. I hope you're still
Yeah.
talking to them. And
Yes.
and it's funny that you say, "Well, she's a wild one," and I'm like, "Oh, I don't think of you like, oh, there's Molly out at the club again. Makes
Yeah. Yeah.
sense. This
Yeah.
girl."
Double fisting.
Yeah, classic Molly.
Classic
But
Molly.
but the biggest thing about that is that, and to bring it back to thriving in the wild, because that's my life these days,
Yes.
is
Right.
that that's why wild spoke to me so well. Because, like, I think when you're wild, there's a couple definitions of it. It's like,
Mhm.
okay, yeah, she's wild, she's out of control, she
Yeah.
doesn't know this. But I also think there's the exact opposite definition, that you are so in control, you are so aware, you are like wild, nothing else is influencing you. And
Yeah.
so when I think it's a compliment when it's like, oh, she's a wild one. Yeah, because like
Yeah.
you're so authentically yourself. And
Yeah.
that's why some the different wilds that we talk about here, where it's like, okay, we're entering relationship talk, or oh, we're entering this, it's like those are wilds in their own, but like you have to thrive in that. So that's
Yeah.
just part of that, that I think you touched on, and you kind of exemplify all of that.
Yeah.
So
Thank
thank you for being wild and
you.
not being the other one, because I
Right.
would
Right.
hate to have to pull you from the clubs.
Yes.
Let's go back to that cross country road trip that you went on. That's amazing. And you made some amazing TikToks and content from that, that people can see on your Instagram and TikTok. But
Mhm.
what do you think is the one word you'd use to describe that experience?
Gosh, I would really, it sounds so cliche, but I would say freeing. And the reason why I would say that is because I am a very deep thinker. Again, I know I touched on that a little bit, but there's my brain is constantly working. There's never a moment of peace. It's always thinking through every single situation, every scenario, how to get better, how to like achieve and do all of these things. And I thought when I went on this road trip that I would, have all of these big like realizations and these big kind of moments that I really like, something just clicked for me of self-discovery. And when I was on that road trip, I just enjoyed and turned off my brain and was present in every area that I was. And that was so freeing for me to realize, like, we don't have to plan everything out. We can just like trust that the next step is all that we need to know about stepping into right now, and not trying to put every single piece of our lives together. And that was so new for me, and I just, yeah, it really was life changing. And I know that all of those lessons and the experience, like, those will come with time, that as I reflect back on them. But in the moment, I really was like, oh, I'm going to come back a new person. I'm going to drop 30 pounds. Like, I am just going to be like, skin will be cleared. I like, I'm going to be a nun. I don't know, it just,
Yeah.
everything's better.
Habit comes on. Yeah.
And
You just,
yeah, and literally it just was like, we would enter into a city not knowing where we were gonna stay that night and just figure it out. And I know that's how a lot of people travel, but for me, I'm like, here's the itinerary for the next 2 weeks down to the minute. And the fact that we just got in the car and drove, it was really freeing and one of the most amazing experiences. So
did you battle anxiety at the start though?
yes, I really did. I had planned out our first, like, 3 days just to get us on the road, and then I looked at my friend Jacob who went with me, and I was like, "Okay, Jacob, I'm putting away the maps, the Google, like, we're not doing it
Yeah.
anymore. We are just going to enjoy." And there was so much anxiety, like, I'm a recovering control freak, and I still find all of these areas that I really struggle with control or with lack of trust because of wanting to control a situation. And I really, really struggled with anxiety at the beginning, but it was also like, okay, well, now I'm out of Texas, I'm in New Mexico. Okay, now I'm in Arizona, now I'm in Nevada, like, all of these things. It was like, okay, I literally can't control it anymore because I'm far away from my comfort circle, my comfort zone. So yeah, it was really, really great, but lots of anxiety at the start for sure.
Yeah. Well, that's okay. I just assumed that that would happen with, because you remind me a lot of Alex. And one thing I would love to know is, where do you think your sense of humor comes from?
I really don't know. I'm like, all of my family, were such characters in different ways. Like, my parents are both hilariously funny in their own ways. My siblings are very funny, but my style of comedy, I think, honestly, was really influenced by being someone that grew up in the age of the internet. Like, I had my first flip phone at like 3rd grade and was constantly on YouTube. I know.
Shucks.
I know. And was constantly on YouTube watching a ton of comedians. Like, when I was in 3rd grade, my dream was to be a writer on SNL. Like, what 3rd grader has that dream? Half of the skits I did not even understand. There was just something about it that it was like, that's what I want to do with my life. And so I really was influenced so much by comedians and watching them and their craft from a young age. Like, I would watch Eddie Murphy and just be like mesmerized, not by like Dr. Doolittle, but by the characters that he would tap into, with like Coming to America and just all of these classic movies and classic things that I would watch. And so I think there's so much in myself that's little pieces that are pulled from my favorite people. But it was also finding my own voice in those, of not wanting to be a clone of someone else. And I still think I'm learning that a little bit, because the internet there's so much peer pressure with it, that you really have to be confident in your own voice. And that doesn't just go for obviously comedy. It's just, if you're trying to build a brand, if you're trying to build a business, like, people aren't looking for a new version of something else. They want something original and fresh. And it really takes a lot of bravery and time to carve that out and figure out what that is. And I think in a lot of ways, I'm still kind of figuring that out, but it's weird, like, doing it online in real time. Like, I would rather figure it out and then present myself well. But I think that's part of the journey. That's part of the wild, is being brave enough to know that I'm not there yet, but I'm still going to show up and step out anyways, and trust that one day, like, it'll all work out.
It is all working out. I love
Yeah.
that. Now, this is another cliche thing, but I'm just curious to get your take on it. Because I just know you'll say something funny or not. I don't want to put that pressure on you.
Mhm.
But do you think laughter is the best medicine?
Oh, always. It's like, I think back on the worst times in my life when my family was probably so annoyed I was in the room, like, this is really morbid, but I think about, like, when my grandparents were passing away, and
Oh,
I would just start
I'm gonna have
making
the same
jokes.
story. Go on, go on.
Like, I would just start making jokes. I'm like, "Well, grandmas look better." And my mom is, like, watching her own mother pass away, and I'm like, "I don't know why I said that." Like, it was just the most natural response. And this is really weird, but my mom is a funeral director, and my grandpa owns a funeral home, so all of my life has been surrounded by death and very morbid, so there's a lot of dark humor that comes from that, that I just don't think anything is weird or too far. Like, I am very aware and honoring with my comedy, but I also love to push the line and ride that line a little bit. And so, yeah, there's no situation that's too far out of my reach. I don't think everything's a joke to me, and it personally helps me through everything. So I don't know if laughter is the best medicine for everyone. There are some very serious people that I'm like, I don't know if Prince Philip, that's the
Yeah.
best medicine for him. Yeah. But for me, like, yeah, it definitely is.
Yeah, I think that's a great answer. It is
Mhm.
maybe not prescription for everyone. But
Yeah,
if you can find the laughter and know that you're not trying to be cruel, it's
yeah,
just to
totally.
make yourself be. I'm glad you shared that story about the grandparents one, and I'll share this one to make you feel better. So my grandmother had just passed, and it was kind of a hard situation. She had had a stroke, and then it was months after. And I had gone home earlier, maybe like a week before the funeral. And Alex, of course, was going to sing at the, funeral. And she slayed it, just brought the whole house down. And we were picking out the song that we thought we'd suggest to her to sing. And I remember I had like made this really emo playlist. I'll send it to you at some point. That was
Yes,
just
please.
all songs about death. Like
Yeah.
sometimes when I just need a good cry, I listen to this playlist. It
Yeah, you're
is
like, "This isn't good for me, but I'm definitely going down this road."
this isn't good for me, but why do I keep listening to this song?
Yeah.
Like, I cannot stop Temporary Home by Carrie Underwood, like, every
Oh,
time.
Alexa level 10, yeah.
Yeah, every time. And, like, I'm playing all this, and, like, I can tell, like, everyone's just so somber because, like, we'd play a little bit, like, oh, this one, oh, no, but, like, you had to hear it out. But everyone in
Right.
the room is just so sad. So I, like, turn on, like, this horrendous, like, Justin Bieber song or something. Like,
Like,
what
"Can we
about
do
this?
Goodnight Joe?"
Yeah. And and I just see the fury in my mother's eyes, like, "How dare you, Taylor?" And, like, she knows my humor well enough, and everyone
Right.
knows that humor is my coping mechanism, but it was a wrong time, and,
Yeah.
it
But
kind
it's
of
a good
upset my
story now.
grandfather.
Like, my mind in those moments is like, "Oh, people are gonna be so mad now, but in 10 years, that's the
It's
only
a good
story they're
laugh.
gonna tell."
It's a good
Yeah.
laugh. Yeah, I know. And so what's hard about that is that some people think that I don't take life seriously. Like,
Mhm.
oh, she doesn't have any feelings. Like, she's just always making light. She's just always
Right.
making jokes. But, like, I think it's almost opposite at times because I feel so much that I can't handle anymore.
Right. Yeah, I would definitely agree with that. I think there's a lot of people again that there's a misconception about comedy and about like lightheartedness in general that I think some people really do disassociate and like comedy's their outlet in that sense. But for people who really appreciate comedy or writing or like the art form of it, if we're gonna go that far, right? There's so much more that goes into it. Like I am again such a deep feeler, such a deep thinker. Like I have my master's degree in addiction and recovery counseling. Like literally my brain is always thinking through like ways for people to be healthier, the ways that people are responding and the ways that are like I'm constantly not trying to fix people or fix other things necessarily, but my mind is just always working in that avenue. And I think there are a lot of people that are comedians that understand that, and it makes what they do so much more special because it's not that they're out of touch with the world or that this that and the other. They genuinely understand the shittiness of life, the crap that people are going through every day, and why what they do is so important. Like whenever all of this first started, I had so many people messaging me like, hey, you don't even know how much I enjoy your videos. Like I'm a COVID nurse on this floor, I haven't had a day off in literally like 115 days, and like me and my floor just watch your videos and we laugh and we forget about the world for a minute. And there's things like that that when you hear those things, it makes what you do like so much more important because it's not just for the people at home that like, oh haha, scroll. It
Mhm.
really does mean something when people can rally around something, when people can like really disassociate for a minute. And there is so much more that goes into comedy. And I think that then people realize, and for sure with people as well, that use humor to cope or like I mean I get told all the time like you must not take life seriously, you're such a free spirit, blah blah blah. And that's one of the reasons why I started my podcast, so I could show people like, yeah, I'm an idiot, I'm a trash bag human being, like the juice at the bottom of a trash bag even, but good lord, I'm such a deep feeler and I have so much more to offer than just like tell your jokes, clown. Like, there's so much more to me
Make
than
me a
that.
bicycle clown.
Yeah, make me laugh, kid. Get up there. So,
I
yes, I would agree
know.
with
I know. My sister gets mad at me sometimes because I'm like, should we just call him Molly? Like, should we do that? I'll feel better if I call him Molly. And she's like, you can't make people be on the show for you.
that. You're like,
And
yeah, okay.
yeah, and it's not a bad thing. It's just because you genuinely do make everyone feel better. And
Mhm.
I say that, and this was one thing we were kind of talking about before, is like toxic positivity.
Mhm.
And I think that that's something you do really well on your podcast is you address these things, you kind of talk through them, and sometimes you don't even realize it. You might think is like you are actually making people feel better without being like, oh, the way you feel, trash. Like,
Yeah.
oh, you shouldn't be sad. Like, I used to do this. I was absolutely guilty of this. Alex would call me and tell me something was going on, and it was like I couldn't handle it. So I would be like, Alex, do you not like realize that you have legs that walk? And like I would make her feel so bad.
You're
And
like,
I'm
you can fix, you're in charge of your own life.
yeah, I was that person. And honestly, I think it was because I didn't feel in control of my own. And so when
Mhm.
she was telling me, it like made me confront things I didn't want to confront.
Yeah.
And so I
The old
think,
classic projecting our feelings onto other people.
hello, it's me
Hello.
projection. I was continually doing it.
Nobody
And
else.
yeah, nobody knows but my therapist and everyone who can hear this. But
Yeah.
yeah, projection is real.
Mhm.
And one thing about it is that do you think that you ever deal with that where people are like, "Hey, let me just fix you," or like especially having more of a religious background, I do think
Mhm.
sometimes in religion, and I have nothing against religion, I'm a faithful person. I just have had experiences in that circle where it seems like, no, 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 God loves you, like nothing's wrong, but like there's still things that I have to process and God
Yeah.
wants me to process it.
Yeah, I 100% agree with that, and that's something that I'm actually really passionate about is being fully authentic, and for someone that, again, like, has come from a vocational ministry background, like, I there's this level of whenever I'm really trying to have a hard conversation or just share honestly where I'm at with my faith or with other things that are going on in my life, I know that there's gonna be a lot of people that are gonna feel let down by me just because of the role that I played in their life as being this ministry leader for them. Because I know how I felt when I would see the people who led me and were, my pastors and mentors in my life, like being let down by humans. And so, from a faith perspective, like that's so real. But I've had to realize that what I feel called to do with my life, and specifically right now, is show up authentically 100% as myself. And I usually, again, like to kind of, get through the situation, like spin zone all the bad things into positives and then share about my experience. And I don't think people share enough about like the muckiness and the dirtiness and the crumminess of life when they're in the middle of it, because people like to present themselves not even as perfect, but just as whole. And when you're admitting that you're not whole, it's scary and it's really vulnerable and it's not fun. And I've found that there are a lot of people, especially people of faith or just in general, that are like, oh, if you're a Christian, you shouldn't be thinking those things. And I openly talk about like doubting God all the time, questioning his existence. Like, I have been faithfully following Jesus since I was 9 years old. And all the time I'm like, God, are you real? Or is all of this stupid? Is all of this in vain? Like, but
Mhm.
God knows my heart and my character. And like, he created me this way. He's not surprised by my actions. So, from a faith perspective, like definitely, just from the rest of the real world perspective and the stuff that people say to me, absolutely. I think, gosh, there are so many people that have a lot to say that feel like they know you from just seeing you and seeing your videos, that they have so much input into your life. Um, but yeah, I think, mm, yeah, I
No, no,
just
I think
too
you're
much to say on this topic.
yeah, well, because I think it's important in the realm of you can feel. And that
Yeah.
might be a whole other episode. But and
Mhm.
that's why we laugh because we're still feeling it, but we're just trying
Yeah,
to get through it. And I
totally.
really believe you grow through what you go through.
Mhm.
And if you're like, okay, suck it up, girlfriend, you gotta put your
Yeah,
big girl pants on today, like I used to be. And I still
yeah.
have a tendency to lean that way, where it's like, no time for the weary, like keep going,
Mhm. Yeah.
grind time. And who cares if your heart's broken or in X, Y, and
Right.
Z? Like you got to show everybody that you are out on the town and nothing's
Yeah.
stopping you. And it was like, then it comes to a screeching halt, and
Right.
it always does. It literally
Yeah.
always does.
Mhm.
And I'm back listening to that emo playlist,
Yeah,
feeling the
I joke
feels.
a lot. Yeah, I joke a lot about like the which I don't mean this in a bad way because not all bloggers are like this, but I'd call it like the blogger complex where it's like, hey guys, everything's rosy and perfect, and here are all of the most wonderful things about today. And I talk a lot about like anytime I see someone doing that where it's just like so fake and not authentic. Like people crave authenticity. Like they want stuff that's real. And if you're just like putting on the perfect show every day, people like me as a consumer, it's like I don't want that. And it's so hard to put yourself on the other side of that of like, gosh, I want to be so real, but I'm so scared. But once you start doing it and kind of rip the band-aid off of like, hey, I'm not having a great day, or this is where I'm at, or I'm so confused by this. People like have never like responded more to my stuff than when I've just been real and when I've just been honest. And yeah, so I think like people can tell when you're fake. People can tell even if you're trying to do everything that's perfect. Like we all know that it's going to fail us every time, but we keep doing it because we're too scared of letting people behind the curtain of what's real.
Yeah. Do you struggle with this too when you like really open up? I've noticed that when I'll be like, "Hey guys, it's been a hard couple weeks." Like, one, okay, my heart is relative to your heart. Like, I know that
Yeah,
everybody has hard days, and I'm not saying like, "Oh, I'm a COVID nurse," or "Oh, I'm doing these things like
yeah,
rocket surgery." Take that out of your thinking. Like, when I say
right.
it's hard for Taylor Stern right on this planet Earth, and
Hmm.
that's relative. And I'll get these messages sometimes, Molly, where like people are like, "Hey girl, like keep your chin up." And honestly, appreciate it. Like, thank you so much for taking
Yeah,
the time. It always means a lot to me if you message me and say something like that. But what I want to tell these people is like, I am good. And I
yeah,
am good. I'm just telling you this is where I was feeling in this moment.
hmm,
And it's a really tricky balance because
yeah,
it's like, hey, I'm letting you know, like, every day isn't sunny and rosy, and sometimes I do this. But then you're vulnerable in the sense where people are gonna come at you and be like, well, like now you're fine. Okay,
yeah,
fake. Like,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
because it's called a emotional roller coaster that is my life.
Yeah, you're like, I'm spiraling. Have you heard of it? Look it up in the dictionary.
Can you be
Yeah,
doing
I
that
think
24/7? Is that existent? Is
yes.
that healthy?
Yeah, it's really weird how we have different standards for people that we don't know. Because like with my friends, if I call them one day and I'm like, "Yeah, I just had a bad day with depression. I don't want you to say or do anything about it. I just need you to know like and kind of be in it with me so you can check on me in the next few days." And if I share something like that on my story and then the next day I'm like making jokes and laughing, people are like, "Oh, are you doing all of that for clout?" I'm like, "What about depression is like clout? I don't understand." But it's like when it's your real friends and people that you know in real life, it's so easy to be like, "Oh, that's so real. I get it." Because you understand the complexities of life, you understand the ups and downs. And that's why I say all the time that the internet is not real and real life happens offline. And although in our society the internet has become real, it's a real way that people make a living, it's a real way that people engage and interact, but there's still something so different about when you take those relationships offline. And there's always going to be people that say stuff, there's always going to be people that don't understand, but I have to really allow the people like watch who's speaking into my life and only let that be the people that have investment in my life in the real world in real time kind of thing.
I love it. Well, after talking about something so hard, let's wrap this up with some funnies because that's who we
Oh,
are.
yes.
What makes you laugh the hardest? Like, what do you see on the internet and you will legitimately cry laughing every time?
Okay, so when people fall down, that's so
Oh, I
funny.
knew you were that kind of person.
Yeah. Also, like, because I'm a 13-year-old boy, like, I get so embarrassed, but, like, farts are always funny to me. Like, anytime I see a video on TikTok where that's involved, I will watch it 47 times. I'm really into, like, really dry humor that doesn't make sense or humor that's just all over the place. I love it. And, like, I don't like the easy humor that's, like, a bunch of which I love, like, cussing. I love potty humor, but when that's people's only move is to be like crude or to be like really loud or extra, I'm not into that. And so the comedy that's really smart, oh, it kills me. It takes me out every time.
Yeah, that's for me too, where it's like, oh my gosh, this is hilarious. That's why the Wienermobile video just slays me
Yeah.
every time, or Ford Truck Month being canceled.
Yeah.
And
Also,
what's
there are so many old people on TikTok, and I'm not talking about like, 50-year-olds. There are like grandmas that their grandkids have put them on TikTok and they don't know how to use the app. They're 95 and anything that they say makes me cry laughing because I'm like, they have no idea that millions of people are watching their videos. Like they even if
yeah,
they totally can't comprehend what's going on. And that premise makes me laugh so hard.
and it's
Oh,
like the thought of like trying to explain what we do to older people that just makes you feel so
oh
stupid.
yeah,
Like
yeah.
when I'm like, yeah, like Judy has an Instagram account, and my grandfather's like, why? Who's she connecting with? I'm like,
Oh,
other
that's
dog
so cool.
accounts.
Yeah. Yeah,
And
she's making friends.
yeah, when I say that, I realize what an idiot I am, but like
Yeah.
that's okay because we're all idiots now. Yeah, so yeah, I mean, I just would hope that whenever the Wienermobile comes back around, you will pick me up.
Oh,
And
yeah, yeah. I'm gonna make a
oh,
special request. Now that I'm connected, I'm gonna make a special request that they come and pick us up and do a little tour of Dallas.
yeah, and State Fair next year.
Oh, yeah, we're going. Big Tech's burned down a couple years ago. That was really hard for me. That's still something that's on, my wall of importance. So I've never quite gotten over that. And every year I go to honor his new figure. So
Yeah.
this is
Yeah,
where we're going.
in memory
In
of him.
memory.
But
He's always on my mind.
yeah, we came up with a great content idea. We get the Wienermobile for a cross-country road trip.
Okay.
Yeah. And cuz inside it looked pretty cool.
It was pretty cool. It was very nice inside. They kept it very clean.
Yeah, I'm sure that everyone who's been listening has just turned it off like halfway because of my
Yeah, they're
tangent.
like, "Are they talking about that again?"
Like, they're oddly obsessed with this. This is weird, but
Yeah.
thank you so much for this conversation. I do hope that you would join again, even though this
Oh,
was
yes.
such a cluster.
Literally, this was such a blast, and I'm so proud of you too for doing this podcast. I know it's like I've loved listening, and it's just been amazing. So thank you so much for having me on. This was so fun, and I love you lots.
Love you lots too. Hey there, Taylor here. I hope you enjoyed that episode. If you'd like more episode details, head on over to thrivinginthewild.com for all the info and details on today's guest. Keep thriving, my friends.